What's up, guys? Welcome back to Sincerely Be. If you are new here, I am your host, Blanca, and welcome to your new favorite pod. Yes, where we talk about all things life here, where we get vulnerable and open up about past experiences. But we realize that every season has a reason, and we do not stay stuck there. We grow and we evolve to become the best version of ourselves every single day. So I'm so excited that you have decided to join me on today's episode, and I really hope you guys enjoy it. If you would have asked me in my early 20s to talk about this topic, I wouldn't. I probably would not volunteer to talk about this topic, but I reflect on it now that I'm in my late 20s, and I really wish that I had this sort of episode to listen to when I was going through that season of solitude. And I want to talk about this topic because honestly, I think it's very important to take advantage of the season of solitude. And the reason being is because there is so much growth that comes out of this season. And I don't think many of us see it that way. Because during that moment that you're in, like all you think about is being lonely and alone, and that you have no one there to guide you or to explain to you why you are feeling this certain way. When I was going through this season in my early 20s, it was such a confusing season of my life because I was always a relationships girl. Like, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I have always been a relationships gal. I never knew how to be alone. I never wanted to be alone. I didn't like that feeling of loneliness. And I always seeked a purpose in someone else. And I think many of us go through that or are going through that, where because we get so scared to be alone, we try to distract ourselves so much in something else or in someone else because we don't know how to truly connect with ourselves. But I think we confuse the feeling of loneliness with God truly removing us and separating us from something that no longer suits us, that no longer benefits us, that no longer is meant to be in our path. And I truly believe that in this season, God is truly teaching us how to love ourselves, how to know ourselves better. And when you begin to step out of that season, you learn like so much about yourself. So much. And I never really saw it like that going through that season because, again, it was so new to me. I really, truly learned how to heal, how to love myself, how to value myself. And those are a few ways that I learned how to navigate the season of solitude. And I really started to look within that void that I would feel and I was seeking through other people or seeking through other things because I didn't know how to give it to myself at the time. But I also think that many of us don't enjoy this season because we invest so much of our time and energy into something that we know is not worthy for our future or even the current season that we're in, but because we can't seem to fill that void ourselves, like we're seeking it through something else. And I'm not gonna lie, like I would do that. I would do that a lot. I would try and fix other people, or I would try and seek other people that needed me, or I would just try to do everything I could in order for me to not have to feel the things I was feeling inside or really have to like fight those emotions because I was scared. I was scared to truly sit in my own thoughts and truly get to know myself because I was scared that I wasn't gonna like who I was. And my purpose, what I thought was my purpose, was other people having to need me so I would feel that I was wanted and I was valuable in someone's life and that someone just needed me. But God truly separated me from that. God brought me into my own room and showed me truly what this season meant for me. And he didn't do it in a hurtful way. He didn't do it in the way that I was not going to be able to overcome this. But God truly did this for me to show me that I am okay being alone, that I am okay figuring out what truly is a priority in my life right now. And he had to separate me from certain people, certain groups, certain environments for me to fully grow and for me to actually seek more of him. Because I knew that I couldn't do this alone, and I knew that I didn't want to do this alone. I knew that I didn't want to handle my own feelings on my own. I knew that I didn't want to have certain conversations with people that I knew that I needed to have. But this truly taught me how to mature and how to truly realize, like, when you're wrong, you're wrong. How to apologize, how to forgive, how to truly and fully be whole with myself. That I didn't need someone to make me feel whole, or I didn't need something to make me feel like I had a purpose. This season truly taught me how to navigate my own life because God was guiding me through it all. And I think before I got into this season, I was trying to control everything all the time, and I was trying to control everyone's emotions around me, and I was trying to fix everything and fix everyone. And at the end, like, I was always leaving my needs at the end, and then that caught up to me. That caught up to me because when I didn't have anyone to fix, when I didn't have anything to fix, all that was left was me and everything that I needed to fix with myself. And I think this can apply to a lot of areas in our lives. And there was a quote actually that I read on Pinterest, and it's so good actually. And it says, "Your season of isolation is not a means for you to be in desperation. You are in isolation because you are being developed." So let me talk to my single folks real quick. And this isn't attacking anybody because I was in this boat, so I can understand and I can relate why so many of us do this. But I think because so many times we get so scared to be alone and that feeling of loneliness, we get desperate into finding someone or something to fill that void in the moment. We might be dealing with a lot of pain. We might be dealing with just anything, like any sort of emotion that you just like want to like keep shoving down there, like super down, because you're like, I don't want to deal with this now. I'll take care of it later. Or like you're trying to tell yourself like, this really doesn't affect me that much. Like, I don't really care. Like, I don't want to deal with it. But what ends up happening is that when we are feeling this void with something or someone else, what happens when we go into this desperation mode is that we get into this habit of entertainment and we start entertaining things that do not suit us for this season. And what happens during this time of entertainment, either if you're the entertainer or you're being entertained by someone and you're still following along with whatever is going on in this dynamic, is you create these attachments with this person. Whether you in the beginning you were saying like, oh, this is nothing, like I'm bored, like I have no one else to talk to, like this person is just in my life right now to keep me entertained, to just like distract me and everything. But what happens is that you start building these physical or emotional attachments with this person. And now this person becomes part of your routine, where you are getting used to having this person entertain you quite often. And you go back into that same cycle where you weren't truly alone and you weren't truly healing and you weren't truly learning about yourself, because right away you go into a situationship that you weren't supposed to be in the first place. And they're not pouring into your life like they should, because from the beginning, this was only your distraction. And at the end, you're not just hurting yourself, but you're hurting this other person too, because maybe this other person can truly have a thing for you. And you're over here like, ha ha, like, like they don't mean nothing to me. Like, I just need something to keep me distracted from whatever you're trying to avoid. But sometimes it doesn't play out like that. Sometimes it happens to us in a way that we didn't intend it to. Let's say that we had just recently gotten out of a relationship, and because we weren't happy and content in that previous relationship, the first person que nos hace ojitos o nos dice algo bonito, and they say those pretty things that you've been wanting to hear. So you get curious and you wonder, like, what could be through those doors, you know? So you walk into that door, pero lo que pasó is that you didn't give yourself that time to heal or reconnect with yourself after removing yourself from a certain relationship that had to end. And maybe that relationship didn't end in bad terms. It doesn't always have to end in bad terms, but sometimes God separates you because he needs you both to go into your own path and become your own person, because maybe you guys were very dependent on each other. And you guys had to grow as individuals and find your own purpose for yourself and not through each other. But other times you do end really ugly and messy, and then that makes you seek something different, and you're just so confused on who you are and your identity, and so you're seeking your identity through other things and just trying to find your purpose, but you're not giving yourself that moment of solitude. You're not taking a step back and realizing, like, okay, what just happened? Like, maybe you lost a friendship and you're just like, I thought me and this person were so close. Why did it end? You know, like, or sometimes when that friendship ends, like, you're just like, well, whatever, I don't need them. Like, I'm going to go find new friends. But then you end up in the same friend group that is no longer for you, where maybe like you're no longer trying to do those same habits, but that same friend group that you fell into are constantly doing the same thing that you were like, oh, I just don't want to do this anymore. Or maybe you were in a romantic relationship and you were so comfortable in the situationship that you were in, and then you fall into someone else's arms and it's the exact same thing. But why? Because we didn't give ourselves that time to truly understand why we had to be separated from that relationship, from that environment, from that habit, because we jumped right into the next thing because it looked pretty in the moment and we didn't want to feel the ugly pain. What I learned in my season of solitude was so much empowerment that I had with myself, because I'm gonna be real, like, I was very, very dependent on my relationships, on all my relationships, my friendships, my romantic relationships, my family relationships. Like, I was a very dependent person, and I learned so much about myself. I truly felt so empowered as I was stepping out of my season of solitude. Did I feel lonely? Heck yes. Did I feel alone? 100% I did. But I know that God was with me through it all. And he taught me how to turn to him in other ways. Because I'm going to be real, like, I liked the entertainment. I really did. I liked feeling like I was valuable to someone. And when God truly showed me that there was attachment that was coming out of that, because what happens is when you give yourself to someone and that person is giving themselves to you, what happens is it creates this bondage between you two. And then when you end that relationship or that situationship, whatever we want to call it right now, there is this attachment that is stuck between you guys because you both allowed each other into something very intimate and personal in your souls. And then you start feeling certain ways that you had never felt before. And you were like, where is this coming from? Like, why am I feeling like this? And it's not you. Like, now you're carrying someone else's baggage. Now you're carrying someone else's pain. Now you're carrying someone else's insecurities. You're carrying a whole different person. Yes, this leads into something super spiritual. And that is why it's so important to not give yourself to just anyone. But hey, I get it. It's not easy. And right now that hookup culture is just such a normal thing. Like, it's what happens, and it's a real thing right now that people are just like, oh, like, one night stands are cool, you know, like, oh, I'll just hook up with this person because I don't want to deal with my ex right now, or I'll just start talking to this person because I need a distraction right now, well, you know, like, and it just has become so normalized that we offer ourselves so easily to other people, and in the turn of it, it creates more layers of void and more layers of void and more layers of void, because now we're not just carrying our baggage, we're carrying every other person that we have allowed in our life. So that's why when I reflected back into my season of solitude, God really separated me from everything. Like, I was in a whole new city. When I moved out to the city, I was like, yes, like, new me, who dis, like, I was just like gonna create a whole new identity. I was gonna have new friends. I was gonna, like, but I wanted to be in the party life. I wanted to live it up and like just do everything that I wasn't ever able to do in my hometown, because like aquí pues like se hace lo mismo, and you just never really get to experience outside of the same routine or the same friend group or anything like that. And so when I went out there, I had this mindset of like, cuando esté allá, like, I'm just becoming a whole new person, and God had absolutely different plans for me, because honestly, thank the Lord that I never got into the party scene, because it's crazy out there for sure. It's crazy out there as a woman. It's crazy out there as a man. It's just crazy out there, like, just like in general, because like a nadie, because like everyone obviously is going through like their own journey and everything, but like honestly, like no one cares about anything, like no one cares about just like anything, like, and it's just crazy. But I had moved out there and I had just started just like a job, like a retail job, and I hadn't started my classes yet. I was like, how am I going to make friends out here? Like, should I go to a bar, or like just like thinking of like things that I like shouldn't have been thinking, but I was just like, how do people make friends out here and everything? Because mind you, I went out there all on my own. Like, I had no friends. I knew like no one in like the little area that I lived in. I didn't know anybody. And like, like it was just super new to me. And me acuerdo that I was at home. It was a Friday night, and I think I was like maybe 3 months in living in the city on my own. And like something in my heart told me like, why aren't you seeking a church? Like, why aren't you seeking this type of community? Why are you trying to seek something out of your norm? Why aren't you seeking something that's going to help you grow? Like, why are you trying to seek something that because I knew that the party life was not going to do anything good for me. Like, I just wanted a little taste of it, but like in my heart and my spirit like was telling me like, why? Like, what are you going to get out of this, So like I'm just like searching online to see like if there was any churches that were close to where I lived, and I had found one, and I was like going through their website, and then I see that they were having a service that Friday night. And it was going to start like in 2 hours as I was like scrolling. And I was like, should I go? Should I not go? Like, going to like a church on my own. Like, like it was weird. And it was like for young adults. So it was like people like, in their like their early 20s, like mid 20s, like folks that were like in their 20s, entering 30s type of thing. And I was like, okay, I guess like let's just go. So I ended up getting ready. I am driving to the church, and I pull up, and the parking lot is like hella full. And I was like, and then like, that second thought comes in, and you're like, I don't know if I'm ready for this. But I was like, whatever, like I'm here already, like let's just go. So I get off, and the peeps there were so cool. Like, they were all young adults, like, like it was like really, it felt really welcoming. So I go and I sit down, and then I see these two other girls, and they sit next to me, and it was like really cool, like nos saludamos and everything. And then after the service, like we walk out together, and then we like tell each other's names, and then like how they found, like if they had been going to this church for a while or anything. It's funny because both of these girls had actually moved to the city around the same time that I had moved there. So the city life was completely new to them too. And it's so funny because we were all kind of in that season, like a season of change and a season of growth. And from there, we exchanged numbers, and we kind of just started hanging out. I'm so thankful that I found these ladies, because they really kept me accountable to go to church and go to Bible studies and go and like volunteer for the church and everything. And like they really drove me closer to building a community that had the same values that I did. And this is what God wants for you. When God separates you from an environment or a friend group and brings you into this season of solitude, it's not to hurt you. It's not to make you go through this like huge cause of pain. Will there be pain? Absolutely. Because we are losing a part of ourselves that we used to identify with. But the season of solitude brings so much growth for yourself, and it brings so much value into learning the person that you are developing into becoming. And sometimes we become so hesitant because we don't want to let go of our past. We don't want to let go of those relationships. We don't want to let go of that environment because it's our comfort zone. It's what we're used to. It's what we like. And God is telling us, like, you're not going to grow if you continue to be in that same spot, because there's so much better for you. There's so many more opportunities behind that door if you just allow Him to separate you from what's keeping you and holding you from progressing. And honestly, our ego comes out a lot during this time, because when we know we have to let go of something or someone, like we don't want to, because we either want this person to see us win so much, although we know that they don't belong in our path. We want them to see us win because they have seen us fall so many times. We try to hold on to them so they can just see us win, and we can just throw it in their face, and at the end just be like, ha, I told you, like, I can do it. And that's when our ego comes out. Or sometimes we don't want to remove ourselves from something because you're like, I know I can change this person, or I know I can change the situation. So I'm going to keep trying, and I'm going to keep trying. And at the end, like, you're just hurting yourself. You're hurting yourself, and what is not meant to change won't change. But if you are constantly battling with whatever you're trying to change in your situation, if you're trying to change a person because you know that they have potential and they can give you the good life that you see in the future and everything, girl, if they haven't changed and it's taken them how many years, don't think that they're going to change. And that is the harsh truth. And sometimes we have to swallow that pill and go through that heartbreak. But that's not where your story ends. It's not going to end there. There is so much better out there. But that's for like the whole season of singleness there. Like, I won't get too much into it, although I kind of did. And I could have made this into like a 2-part thing. But I wish I can tell my early 20s self, like, girl, take advantage of this solitude. Porque vas a aprender tanto. Like, yes, girl, right now, I know you're crying in your bathroom right now and you feel so alone, and you can't just call that person up and let them know, like, oh my God, this is happening to me, or like letting them know the good news or telling them the bad news. Like, I know you want to pick up that phone, girl. I know you do, but don't do it. Don't do it, because it's just leading you back into your old ways, and that path is not meant for you anymore. And these are just a few things that I learned from my season. And maybe you haven't seen your season of solitude like this, but I want you to change your perspective on why right now it might feel lonely for you. But I want you to remember, in this season, you're not alone. You have just been separated. You're not alone, because there's people being placed in your life right now. Even if you don't think that they're making like this impact in your life, this season really teaches you to observe people and to observe those around you and who you're surrounding yourself with, and whether you're growing or if you're still staying in that comfort level that you have been in. This season, you're not alone. You've just been separated from a place that you no longer belong in. So let me just share a few things that I had learned in my season of solitude. And maybe this is going to just plant a seed for someone to change their perspective around in the way that they're feeling right now. But I really learned a a lot of clarity. I got a lot of clarity in my season of solitude. There was just, because I wasn't relying on anybody, or because I just wasn't dependent on anybody, I truly had a lot of clarity in my priorities and what I truly knew could help me grow. And I also found so much value within myself, with my time, with my worth, with just who I was as a person. Like, I became to value myself so much, and that I can't easily just give anybody access to me, that I truly am protected by the grace of God, and that not just anybody can just come and rip my peace away, and that no one can just come and rip that joy that I have, or that happiness, or just like anything good that I have in my life. Like, no one can come and just destroy that, because I have worked on that for so long. So I'm not going to just give anybody the access to come and step into my life and try to destroy everything that I have built, that God has placed in my life. And that is like a lot of emotional work that I have done, a lot of mental work, and a lot of physical work. It really teaches you your worth. It teaches you that you are so unique, and not everyone deserves to have access to you. It taught me how to heal. It taught me how to observe. It taught me how to focus in the right things, because like I had mentioned, I would always try to find a distraction because I didn't want to deal with my own issues, and I didn't want to deal with my own emotions and feelings or whatever I was going through at that time. And so it was easier for me to just become distracted by other things, and it would shift my focus on what truly mattered, and that was to learn about myself. And that was to learn how to be by myself, how to become independent, how to love and grow with myself by myself. In this season, it also truly showed me how to set my own boundaries in so many different ways, in ways that I never even thought that I needed to set boundaries, because I was so used to doing certain things for people, or I was so used to kind of letting people just step over me or anything like that. And it really taught me. It really taught me how to set those boundaries and how to say no. It also taught me how to stop looking and going back. Because in this journey, like, you want to go back to what feels comfortable and what is comfortable to you. So that's why so many of us end up going back to the same thing, because you're like, oh, like, I feel way too like uncomfortable in this right now. So let me go to something that feels safe. Let me go to something that I know, like, I can feel okay, but deep down, that you probably shouldn't be going back, but you're kind of like shaken, like you're just like, I don't know, like, this is a little too new for me. So let me like go back to something that I used to know. So, but then when we go back, we just start going back to the same old thing, and then we're not growing from that. I feel like in this season, God was really trying to teach me how to focus on what truly matters, and that you don't need a person to give you a purpose, but that I truly needed God to know my purpose. And in this season, it brought me closer to Him. It brought me closer because I knew I couldn't deal with this on my own. And I knew that He was the only one that was truly going to guide me. Because if I was trying to guide myself, I would probably have gone back. I would have probably, like gone into my old ways. I would have probably ended up in something that would have just caused more harm. Porque no me di esa oportunidad to give myself time, to start a whole new journey. So if you know that God is separating you from something, don't seek anything through something or someone else. Really take this time to learn about yourself and give yourself that space of what you truly deserve, of how you want things, what you're looking for in someone, what you're looking for in your environment, what type of friend groups do you want. This season is truly your selfish season. And I know the whole like selfish concept can be very controversial or anything, but this is the season where you take advantage of that, because this is the time where you don't have anyone or anything trying to tell you how to do certain things or when to do certain things or how to change certain things, because this is you versus you. So if you're going through that season of solitude, take 100% advantage of it. Because out of this, you are going to grow so much and you're going to learn so many things that you didn't even know you were capable of. You're going to break so many chains, so many bonds that you've had with people, that you've had with things. This is the time where you are becoming the better version of yourself. Will it hurt? Yeah, most likely. Will you cry? Yes, absolutely. Most likely. If you don't cry, that's weird. But there's just going to be so much growth from this season. And if you're like, I've been in this season for so long, like, when am I going to get out? You know, like, you're like, I'm ready to settle. I'm ready to find someone. I'm ready to move, like, whatever it is. Don't rush this season, because sometimes we think we're ready. Sometimes we think that we're like, all right, I'm healed. All right, like, I'm ready to get into a relationship. But there's probably certain things that haven't triggered those emotions yet because we haven't gone through that experience in a long time. So you feel like you're like, oh, like, I'm over that, you know? But then there's those little things that start surfacing and you're just like, oh, wait, it was still there, you know? And so don't rush this season. I know it can sometimes feel so long. You start to gain so much confidence in yourself. You start to gain so much peace, so much happiness, so much joy. And that's truly what matters. Because right now in this season, you're the priority. No one else. You are the priority in this season. So take advantage of it. Thank you guys so much for staying tuned in this week's episode. And I'm so excited to chat with you all on next week's episode. Love you guys. Sincerely, V.